thank you for coming, all of you. The whole purpose of this event is to form a plan for the recovery of a semi-conscious casualty from overboard, and it came about from our validation inspection with the RYA earlier this year. And it's a difficult one because semi-conscious casualties cannot help themselves. We've got to formulate a plan which we're happy with, which we think we can use, which we are confident is going to be successful. So that's why we're here. The aims are to have a discussion about cold water shock and immersion and some of the risks that the casualty will face from being immersed in water. So that we all have that awareness and understanding, and then we'll go into a practical demonstration of some of the ways in which we can recover from some of the overboard. So we've got two power buckles, one a sail, one a purpose-built power buckle, and we'll talk about those in a moment. And we've got a device that I developed called Crew Overboard Recovery Aid, COBRA, and that's just basically a boat hook with a lifting eye on the end. And we'll have a look at them all in practice. But what I would like from you is your view on how these work, their strengths, their weaknesses, and what information that we want to give to the Five Kingdoms Sailing Club Committee, so that after this the committee are informed, and between myself and the committee we can arrive at a plan which we properly resource with the equipment that we need and the procedures that we require, and populate that on the boat so that anyone who uses the boat, whether they're under instruction or on charter, know that there's something on board this boat they can use to recover a semi-conscious casualty. Any questions? Everyone happy? Good. Alright, for our own safety we've got life jackets on. There's no need to rush. Martin's volunteered to go in the water. He's done a fantastic risk assessment.
I was getting paid.
Yeah, you'll get a cup of tea later.
I'm sure that as well.
Yeah. So I've agreed with Martin that if he does get into real distress whilst in the water, then he'll use his right hand and
Diving emergency signal.
that's the emergency signal. And we don't question why. We'll get him out of the water and we'll do it as best we can.
Yeah. I would suggest we don't leave him in very long at all.
Indeed, indeed. But there are basically three things that I'd like to see demonstrated. One, COBRA, two, a power buckle, and three, the handy billy, maybe in addition, the emergency ladder that's been put on the side. So we'll see how they work.
The mini ladder.
The mini ladder, yeah.
Okay, can I just ask one thing? You know, when you did the handy billy, obviously it doesn't sort of swing out. We've still got the wires and the stanchions, so how do we get around that bit?
When we come to operate the power buckle, you will observe that it will roll you to deck level.
Yeah.
So ideally you want to be able to bring your casualty back on board at deck level. And what they have done on Max is they've changed the lower guard wire so that you can cut one end of the guard wire and release it, and then you're then able to bring the casualty with an inflated life jacket between the deck and the guardrail.
So
that
you've got a
works.
few yachts bobbing around where they put
I actually thought
rope and line.
I thought we had it set up like that already.
Yeah, but it's not, is it?
No.
Now it's wire it all down.
So again, that's something that will come out when we do the practical demonstration. And actually physically lifting a dead weight of person loaded with water is going to be very difficult. So yeah, having that guardrail free to enable people to be rolled onto the deck is key. Right, that's the introduction.
Well, an introduction to it.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah. Right, so fall overboard into cold water. What happens?
You have like a reshock.
You open your mouth, take a deep breath.
You take a deep breath as you hit the water and go under it.
Yeah.
So you're most likely to breathe water into your lungs as soon as you go into the water. Okay, so that's one problem. You're hitting the cold water. What does cold water do? What does your body do when it
Shuts
hits
down
the
your
cold?
capillaries.
It shuts down your capillaries. So what do you
Your heart
Start to
beats
shiver.
goes faster.
Your heart beats faster, and you've
Shiver.
shut down your capillaries.
Yeah.
So what happens to your blood pressure?
Goes up.
It rockets.
Yeah.
So what are you at risk of?
Heart attack.
Stroke.
Heart
Stroke.
attack and stroke.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're at risk of heart attack and stroke. On the breathing side of things, I've already said your lungs have got water in them. What else is likely to happen if you hit cold water? It's a fairly common problem, not
Pee.
everybody's got it. Sorry?
Oh, you
Pee.
pee. You get rid
Oh,
of
you
it.
might well pee,
You
yeah.
pee.
Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
fussed about that, you can clean your
Well,
trousers.
you can lose, well, not immediately, but you can lose quite a lot of psychomotor functions, your muscle tone, power.
That'll go with time. Yeah, what I'm thinking of at the moment is just as you hit that cold water, so you've had your gasp, you breathe in water, which is bad, but there's another big respiratory problem that you're going to have, or some people are going
Like
to
a
have.
choke thing?
No, it's not choking, no. Shock? Well, it is all cold water shock. But
People tend to hold breath.
Unconsciousness.
no, what I'm thinking of is people, well, there might well be panic. What I'm thinking of is asthma sufferers.
Oh, yeah,
Asthma sufferers
Yeah.
are likely to have an asthma attack induced as they hit the water.
yeah, yeah.
So it's quite likely. So you've got them possibly having an asthma attack, possibly having a stroke, and possibly having a heart attack.
No doubt for them then, is there? You know what I mean?
It's not locked down for them, no. No.
Are we better
Well-
pushing them down?
So,
This is on video.
yeah.
Sorry, it's
So
a Downing Street
what
comment.
they do with sailors to prevent the risk of cold water shock, or to reduce the risks from cold water shock?
Well,
Dress properly.
Dress properly.
properly.
That is the big thing, Dave. Yeah, we dress properly.
try
So
to.
that you're less likely to have such a harsh transition as you hit the
You
water.
try not to fall in.
Well, that's the first
Well,
thing
that's
you
the
do.
big
Yeah, but
preventive,
rule
yeah.
number one is wear your harness
Yeah.
Yeah.
and don't
And
fall
don't be
in.
stupid in
Yeah.
terms of what you do around the boat.
Yeah.
We should.
Because you can be dragged with your harness, can't you, as well?
Well, that's
Yeah.
happened before now. The
Yeah.
skipper's
Yeah.
gone over with his harness on and been dragged and drowned to the bow.
That's right.
So,
The other thing is try not to swim excessively because
Well,
the more you move, the
yeah.
more heat is going to dissipate because as we know,
Yeah.
water
You
will
see
take
survival it said do this
Yeah.
in the
to
water.
help. Yeah,
Make a little
the
hole.
water will get rid of your heat 25 times more than we are now
Yeah,
with fresh air.
yeah. So we're actually
you'll get
wearing
cold.
sailing gear when we fall in the
Yeah.
water to start with. So that reduces the severity of the cold water shock that we experience. You're going to have a dry suit on later on, which helps even more. Even a wetsuit is helpful. So, for dinghy sailors, you wear a wetsuit,
Yeah.
and that reduces cold water shock because you get that first bit of water in, and it warms up your body
That's right.
temperature. So that. Yeah, and you can pee in it as well, just to warm it up a bit more.
Don't pee in a dry suit, it stinks.
There's a theme developing here.
I
Yes.
did once. I was desperate. I wanted to get on this yacht. Can I come aboard to have
Yeah.
a fee, please? No, go away.
Yeah, you have to have some Milton. Clean it afterwards.
So anyway, the
We've
gear
got that
we
on
wear
video as well.
sailors reduces the severity of the cold water shock. So it makes us less likely to have an asthma attack, less likely to have a stroke, less likely to have a heart attack.
But it can all have its disbenefits.
The gear?
It's cumbersome.
It's cumbersome, yeah.
baggy.
And you're going to demonstrate, having the life jacket on is going to be cumbersome as well.
That's right.
So we've got all those kind of things. So the initial thing is you first fall into water. There's three really quite severe things that could happen. So that's what you might be dealing with when you're retrieving this casualty. If they're going to go semi-conscious, they might even go unconscious if they've got heart attack or stroke. So the risk of semi-consciousness is high right from the moment they hit the water. So if we kind of think longer term now, and you've already raised some of the things for longer term, when you first fall in the water, your temperature is actually quite good, and in fact with the increased blood flow, your temperature actually goes up a little bit. But then we start talking about hypothermia. So while you're in the water, you already said that the water cools you down more rapidly than air. So very rapidly, you're going to go into the early stages of hypothermia. And the longer you're in the water, water, the worse you go into the stages of hypothermia. And hypothermia is all about core body temperature. It's not about surface temperature. So everything's going to go cold pretty quickly because we've already said that your capillaries are going to close down. So all the peripheral stuff is going to be quite cold anyway. But hypothermia is all about the core temperature. So we're concentrating on the core temperature. And as that core temperature drops, that's as you go through these phases of hypothermia. So what you've got to start with is cold water shock. Early stages of hypothermia, not too much of a problem. You can get people out, you can even let them have a hot shower in the very early stages of hypothermia. Once they've got clearly into hypothermia, you've got to warm them from the inside, not the outside.
That's right.
So you've got to be talking about giving them a Mars bar, giving them some sweet, high energy food to actually get them working from the inside.
Well, when Andy fell in, you know, he insisted on going in the shower, and I was saying, you're not meant to go in the shower, but he hadn't been in for very long.
That's
so
right.
I was trying not to let him get in the shower, and they wouldn't listen to me. So
Yeah. But yeah, you go into the shower. What does the shower do? You go into hot water, and it opens your capillaries up. When your capillaries open up, what happens?
It takes blood away from you.
It dissipates. Yeah, the blood pressure goes down, which is a good thing. But your core temperature goes down, so it actually initiates a more rapid onset of more serious hypothermia. So that's why you don't put them in. You don't rub the skin. Local warming will open the capillaries, and puts people in a hot shower or a bath, that opens the capillaries and just confuses the body's system, so you go into hypothermia more quickly. So you've got food. If you can get them to eat, if they're conscious and they can eat something, that's great, because you can get some high energy stuff and chemical reaction and start warming from the inside. The other good thing to do is body warming. So just get somebody next to them so that they're going to warm them slowly from the outside. But it's the food that you want, and then body warming as well is a good practice.
If you can manage it, Paul, as well, get them out of the wet clothing, get warm, dry clothing on.
Absolutely.
Body heat.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth.
Yeah. Once you've got them back on board and stable, once you can see them stable, then yes, it's all about getting them warm and removing the cold, the wet clothing.
in a way, that was the thing about the shower. Andy, you just had to get his clothes off, and so in his company, probably the best place to do it was in the shower.
Yeah. So
Do we still show people body bags, sleeping bags?
Yes.
sleeping bags, yeah,
Yeah.
and the plastic survival bags. If they're generating the heat themselves, then the survival bag and the sleeping bag is going to help keep that heat in, and that's what you want. And even better is to put two people in the sleep. When does hypothermia set in?
When the body temperature starts to reduce from approximately 37 degrees, when you get to 35, that's irreversible, like a 31.
Yeah, once you've got to 35 core body temperature, then you're starting to go into hypothermia. And it's very difficult to come up with times and descriptions as to how things happen, because people are wearing different clothes, water temperature is going to be different, the air temperature is going to be different. Fat people, yeah, they've got more warm fat to keep them safe.
Yeah, well, it's classic, isn't it? Thin, tall people will get cold a lot quicker than the last.
Yeah.
It's evident.
Yeah, and it's all about surface area to volume ratio and all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, the rounder you are, the more you're going to keep the heat in. And if the fat's warm, then you're lucky. If the fat's cold, then you've got a lot of warming up of the fat to do.
That's your downside.
You're gonna die, mate.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, so 35 degrees, hypothermia has set in. So if it's just a few minutes in the water, then you can probably get on with rewarming, but be very wary of putting people in the shower. But if it is before the core temperature's got down to 35 degrees, you're going to be okay. If you got, there are some figures we can use just to kind of give a measure. They say that hypothermia can set in what kind of range of temperatures?
British summertime.
British summertime, yeah. What about Mediterranean summertime?
I've read somewhere about 16 degrees if you're in long enough. 16 degrees temperature if you're in water temperature. If you're in long
You'll
enough.
read in other places up to about 24 degrees.
Yeah, yeah. It's,
So 24 degrees and you can suffer from hypothermia. So in the Med, you know, the Med gets up to what, about 28 degrees in peak summer. So at that point you're not going to get hypothermia. But for, you know, the Med at other times of the year, certainly early in the season, you're at risk of getting hypothermia.
Yeah, yeah.
Even sailing in the Med in May, June time.
Is it a thermometer on the boat?
We have.
There's one in the COVID pack.
And you've got to put it up the anus as well.
That's what I just said. He's not. That's why I turned to him and said, "You're not sticking it with me,
The problem
darling."
Is that not part of the course, no?
Anyhow, never stick it in anyone's armpit.
Oh.
Honestly.
Sorry? Oh, armpit.
People come along and I was in Greece in the summer. Sorry, this is a digression. But they wanted us to do daily temperatures, and those people kept presenting me with armpits. I said, "Look, stop it." And we sterilised it with Metaxa, so we thought that was adequate. Hello. Man Overboard course.
Oh, you know.
Man Overboard. So, some figures just to give you a feel for how hypothermia works. 10 degrees centigrade Celsius, and somebody that's ordinarily dressed, so somebody not dissimilar to me without the life jacket. If I fell into 10 Celsius water and I was in there for 4 hours, I would be dead from hypothermia. Yeah, and I would go semi-conscious long before that. We'd be talking of maybe an hour and a half at best to stay semi-conscious, and you're going unconscious. So you're probably going to be drowning before you die of hypothermia. Once you're caught out, you can step to about 24 degrees, which would take about 4 hours for the average person, an average plover in 10 degrees. Then that's when you're going to be dead from hypothermia. So it just gives a flavour to how long you've got, but we're talking about doing everything within half an hour. And half an hour is a magic number, because if somebody's in the water for more than half an hour, then we've got to suspect that they're going to have problems when we bring them out, hydrostatic problems when we bring them out. So we've talked previously about bringing people up level. If they're in for 5 minutes, you can bring them up vertically, it's not a particular problem. If they're in for 15 minutes, you can probably bring them up vertically without being a particular problem. But if they're in for more than half an hour, then you've got to expect blood is just going to drain from the top of the body as you're bringing them up vertically head first. So they're most likely to be, you know, if they're alive while they're in the water, if you bring them up vertically after half an hour, you might well kill them while you're pulling them back onto the boat. So we're looking at bringing people up horizontally whenever we can. But as I say, we can bring them up vertically just for those first few minutes, maybe up to 15 minutes, maybe a bit longer if we get a load. Okay. So when Dave gave us that HSE report, and I think it's worth the committee just working through that and drawing out the key things from it.
So at the moment, which is very interesting as to why. Because people survive in the water and then they die when you pull them out.
Yeah.
That's
And what's that saying? What's come across loud and clear to me is that you take great care when you're recovering the people, because that's when a lot of people are lost. So you get back to them, and if you do it too rushed and bring them up vertically or however it turns out to be, then that's when they can be severely injured, with lifetime disorders, or worse still, kill them just in that recovery phase. So I think as a committee we need to look very carefully at what that is and what that report recommends on that. But the big thing that I've read from it is it's all about taking great care of those people and taking the time to do it right and not rushing it while you're actually getting the people on board. And hopefully these gadgets that we're going to be looking at today will find something that's actually going to be helpful along those lines. So if we've got somebody that's been in the water for just 5 minutes, we've got them back on board however we've done it, we've given them a Mars bar, they're chomping away, everything seems fine. What we've got to be wary of?
Secondary drowning.
Secondary drowning. So what causes secondary drowning?
It's where you get, oh sorry mate, come.
The alveoli expanding to reaction to salt water.
Yeah, whatever muck is in the water that you've breathed in that first gasp of cold shock, then there's a high likelihood that whatever muck is in it is going to react with your lungs, and your lungs are then actually going to generate their own fluid, and then that's going to make it difficult to breathe because you've got the fluid in the lungs.
Osmosis, because it's salt water, so there's a different thing drowning in fresh water.
Right.
So it's the salt in the seawater encourages the body to dilute it, so the fluid is sort of sucked into the alveoli.
Right. You'll drown quicker in fresh water than seawater because of that.
Right.
Because you get the semi-permeable membrane in your alveoli gets, as you say, gets gumped up with water, so the gas exchange just packs in, basically.
Yeah, and it's that gas exchange which is the secondary drowning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, you've got if you've got clean water, whether it's fresh or salt, then you can have a secondary drowning effect. But if you've got dirty water, so if you're going in here, there's all sorts, but you can see the stuff floating past.
Yeah.
So that will aggravate the lungs as well on the inside, and that will cause secondary drowning. So it's not just the water and the salt, but there's whatever's in the water that you've fallen into. So various types of weeds causing the inflammation. Yeah.
To ruin the gas exchange.
Yeah.
Get them to hospital then is the answer to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we've got, you know, if we
One of the first things you do on a bike in a difficult situation is called
absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. But yeah, you're expected to take people to hospital.
It's a Mayday job, isn't it? If somebody goes over, you know,
It's a
at
Mayday.
sea,
Yeah.
not planned, whatever.
Yeah.
It's definitely a Mayday job, and then we'll have the discussion from there.
Yeah.
Whether the medics come on to you and say what's the situation with the casualty, what have you done,
Yeah.
what you're going to do, where are your usual
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. In the 5 minutes, then you might not go to hospital. But even if you don't go to hospital, this secondary drowning issue, you've got to be monitoring the people throughout, so that if they do start to show signs of drowning, you know, maybe hours down the way, 6 hours down the way, maybe or more, then
care 24 hours after that.
sorry?
You can do.
I believe you that.
It could well be, yeah. So you've just got to keep your eye on them, certainly for the first 24 hours. But yeah, it could turn out that you've kind of all gone to bed, and the person's starting to suffer from the secondary drowning while you're all
It's
asleep.
just an observation on that, and I know we don't have it, but it might be something to consider, is having an O2 kit on board. Because when we as divers, sorry?
Oh, you mean
Oxygen administration.
cylinder?
So you get pure O2. As divers, we have one on the rib.
Right.
O2 kit.
You
We're
can
trained.
monitor the oxygen level from the O2
Yeah,
meter.
we have. I'm an instructor. You basically, it's linked obviously to basic first aid, life support, AV. But you can either have a constant flow of 10 litres a minute, via a pocket mask, or if the person goes unconscious, you can do AV breaths through the pocket mask, so you get enhanced oxygen into the system. I know we don't do it on our way, but it's just a thing to think about.
No, we don't do it on our way, eh?
D-type O2 cylinder,
Yeah.
regulator.
If you've got it, you can tell the medic when you're on the radio that you've got it, and if they say use it, use it.
It's just something to consider.
Yeah. If you've got it, then you can tell the medic that's advising you that you've got it, and they can make the decision for you. Right. Have I missed anything that anybody was expecting me to cover?
That's fine. What's the first thing you do to avoid all these problems?
Don't fall in.
Exactly. When you're in the dinghy, do you wear a life jacket?
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
that's
yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
most likely to fall in out of the little dinghy when you're going ashore.
Coming back from the pub at night, that's
Exactly.
casualties, loads of
And,
casualties.
that's, and it's the cold shock and that gasp when you.
But you don't put a harness on, do you?
You don't put a harness on.
No. but it is the most likely time to fall out is getting between the boat and the dinghy and the shore.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I can say there's no actual physically. You can trust it.
If it was rough, it might be an idea.
Right, shall we have a look at the safety equipment that we've got and what we might use? First of all, I was rather hoping we'd have. It's got a section of mesh there so water drains out, and basically you attach a line to this or a boat hook, you put it into the water and you manoeuvre the casualty into the bar buckle. And as they're laying horizontal, you just bring it up, and as you bring it up, they're rolling.
Does it depend on the person doing most of its own manoeuvring, really?
The casualty.
You can't. Yeah, you can't. Are you suggesting that you drive the boat up towards them?
Well, in all rescue situations, you will be on the windward side of your casualty, allowing the boat to drift down, calming the water alongside the boat, and then any of these devices that we're going to use, you will use from that position. So my take on this is you will need a boat hook to be able to manoeuvre the casualty to get them into this, because we're talking semi-conscious, unable to help themselves, can't lift themselves into this power buckle. So the power buckle, when it's deployed, has to sink.
Yeah, so you can do with the boat hook, pushing it out,
Yeah.
pushing it away.
So
Give
we'll
you
have a
that
look at
space.
this in use, and you know the basic technique is there.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works. The other one is if you've got a boat which does not have a roller furling genoa, or just maybe one single genoa, and you can drop it out of the track, you can use a head sail still attached to its halyard. So we've got a dinghy sail there. Again, it's just a triangular piece of cloth that's lashed to the side of the deck with a halyard on, and it works exactly the same way. Now, I have seen a genoa used in this way, and the instructor stood on the genoa. Really strong piece of kit, and it worked really, really well.
Yep.
But
And you've got the added benefit of having a halyard.
you've got to get to
cranking
your
up.
casualty. You've got to deploy the genoa. You've got to get your power bottle out of the locker. If you've got a power bottle, you've got to lash it on. And speed is of the essence. So,
The one thing we haven't got today is that we're actually lying with bows to the wind. So we should actually be lying across the wind is a more natural position for actually doing the rescue.
it is.
Yeah.
It is
So
indeed.
that might actually make some of these things seem a little bit odd compared with the way
Blowing in the wind.
Because the sail will catch
Yeah.
in the wind. Yeah. But we'll
we'll see.
we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. So the other thing that we've got is this device here, the Cobra Crew Overboard Recovery Aid. And all it is a glorified boat hook. It has a larger hook with a non-return on, and it has a lifting eye at the top. I've designed this for use on my boat, and it will be permanently rigged to a spare spinnaker halyard.
And lying on the deck.
No, it's going to be hooked onto I've got two spinnaker poles, and there's space on the spinnaker pole bracket just to hook this in, so it will be permanently rigged. And the idea is that if you're short-handed sailing, which I do with my wife, then if she were to go overboard or I were to go overboard, then we go through the normal drill of coming alongside. You uncleat the spinnaker halyard, and then you take the pole with the free halyard, hook your casualty, go back to the halyard, pull it in, and the casualty will come upright. But the whole idea about this, that you've got back to your casualty quickly, you've hooked them quickly, and you get them out of the water before you're within the 30 minutes, and therefore you're going to be better to bring them up. The reason that the hook is larger is that if you fail to hook onto their clothing or onto a life jacket, you can put it under their armpit, and it will probably damage their arm, but it will lift them out of the water. And my take on this is about balance of harm, and I'd rather have my casualty alive with a damaged arm than dead in the water as I try and find a way of getting them out. So that's why it's been designed like that, and that's how you use it. So you unclip the spinnaker halyard, you walk round to your casualty, you hook, and if you've got more crew, you'll have someone on the winch on the spinnaker halyard, and you just bring the casualty out. What you will observe when we look at martin in the water is when your life jacket inflates, you won't see this because it's hidden by the two balloons that support them in the water. And hooking that is a bit like going to a fairground and trying to pick up a duck with a hook.
Yeah.
So the idea is you just hook under the life jacket anywhere that you can, or if you're failing to do that, on an item of clothing, just get them out to the water as soon as you can. The other things we've got, there's an emergency ladder. Sometimes you can get these in wire ladders, and they can be 6 feet, 2 meters long, and they can be used if you haven't got a power buckle as a power buckle. And yeah, it won't roll the casualty as nicely as the sailcloth will, but you will get them out of the water. So we'll have a look at that later on and see how that works. So we've talked about the horseshoe life buoy and the difficulty of someone getting themselves into it, and the impossibility of working from the boat to put that round a semi-conscious casualty. We've talked about the Kim Oscar helicopter strop which floats, and the difficulty we would have trying to work on the boat to get that round a casualty. We talked about the power buckle, which needs to be a dedicated piece of equipment which you would keep stowed, so you've got to unstow it, lash it on. And on Max they were very good, they were able to do that within a minute, so by the time the boat had turned around and come back to the casualty, they already had the power buckle out ready for use. And then we've talked about on this boat you could unfurl this genoa, drop it to the deck so that it's not inside the luff groove, and then you can throw the sail overboard and use it as a power buckle. So those are those, and then we've talked about cob rope, because in all circumstances I think you're going to be using a boat hook, so you might as well have a boat hook that you can use to lift someone out if that is the right thing to do. So that's what we're going to have a look at. Any questions?
Yes. We've got the handy billy to try as well, which is just, it's a pulley system. So we can try the handy billy alongside these other things, but there's one other big point. I mean, we've got a ladder, swim ladder in the water off the back of the boat, so why wouldn't we use that?
Because it's dangerous with the boat going up and down.
Absolutely.
This is how you crack someone's head, but this is also true of the ladder.
It's less true on the side here.
On the side, yeah.
But yes, at the back of the boat, if somebody just goes under, just in as the wave goes, then yeah.
Right, Joe, I'll put this boat up and I'll bring you around. Okay, so we set on the halyard. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to let go? And that's the casualty in the water. Don't help anyone, just let go and the semi-conscious casualty.
Yeah.
And your job is to
This is now pressing your face, this life jacket.
yeah.
I think it's
Right.
with all the air in your suit as well, actually.
Okay. I'm going to try and hook you now with that, Martin.
Just hook it underneath the harness. That's it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Pull in. Yeah. Coming up, Martin.
Oh well, wait.
up horizontal anyway, so far.
Oh, nice this.
But do you need help?
Lots of it, tricky. Gonna come into the pulling them straight out on
Pull him
this.
straight up, straight out, all the way, please.
So you monitor the position.
Keep going. Yeah. Now you could assist him by pulling him horizontal. Taking the big round of leg. How we're going to get him up to we're going straight up.
Up it's gone.
Straight up.
Up it is gone. On the rail.
That's it. Right.
Oh, that's good. Then you can let him sit down on the deck.
Yeah, start to lower him now. Take the pressure off this now. Give the pump some breathing space.
You know the worst part of that? These life jackets are crap.
Don't you want to do that from there for me?
Could you have pictured?
Is that the worst? Was that?
Yeah.
That was really painful. No? As I say, there's that much buoyancy in this suit anyway. You end up lying on the surface.
Yeah.
Okay.
Colin, how was it for you?
Oh, it was easy, but it just hooked on the, just under the harness. Whether or not it'd be better hooking them on the back, I'm not sure. What do you think?
Then
So he lifted them up.
Well, you bring him out in kind of
no.
semi-horizontal position, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I still think that way's better because it's opening up your chest, isn't it?
Yeah.
you might be getting his. If you don't get him up at that point, then he'd be his face in the water.
Don't forget, I wasn't assisting at all.
No,
I
no,
just
that was
laid
perfect.
exactly as
Yeah.
it was.
So, yeah, there we go. That's how Cobra works, and it works.
Yeah.
But you do need to wear your life jacket really tight.
Yeah. So this, yeah. Makes you think.
Right, and the next one.
Number two.
You're conscious,
Okay.
and we'd like you to clip onto the D-ring.
Turn out first, turn it out.
On the billy.
Can we ease the main sheet, please?
So Al? It's the shackle.
Okay, let it go, Ali.
And this is just heave and not around the winch or anything.
So ease that out for him, because he needs a bit of slack.
Bit more. As you say, this is all feel, this, Dave.
Yeah.
Cooperation. You're on those. Did you feel it click into place? Yeah.
Okay. This should be better than the winch with the mechanical advantage.
How are your crown jewels, Martin? Alright?
All right. Hanging to the left at the minute.
That's as far as we go.
That's a bit of booming.
The booming. Can we have the main sheet yet?
Could you slide that out of the way?
Don't pull it up.
I'm going to go around this way. So I can, but then-
I respectfully suggest that you're not going to get him on board without hurting him or yourself.
If the strop was short,
That needs lifting up.
Yeah.
short, if we double the half the length of that strop, it'd
Yeah.
probably work.
Wrap it round
Wrap
itself
it round
again.
again.
Yeah, I need another. Oh, I need to be certainly feet height.
Yeah.
Alright, with 21 I won't be able to do it.
And the booms drop right down.
Yeah.
On the load.
So if you suggest you just ease me back down, Dave.
Yeah.
Okay. Take one up, yeah.
Steady Eddie.
Yeah, just let one go.
That's it. Always protect the opposable bits.
Should we adjust the strop and try again?
But it's not the strong.
The top of the lift's not strong enough to stretch it.
Well, it won't be, yeah, because it's a tiny bit of spring, isn't it? Compared to how much it-
Okay.
Half the length of that strop as well.
So what do you want to do now?
It's all yours. Yeah, that's proved the point, hasn't it?
Yeah, good.
You don't need to lift that boom right high, haven't you? You're going to try that again.
Ollie?
Just reduce that strop.
Hang on. Hang on.
Main sheets off, you can put it on. Oh,
Well, we don't need to pull it
no,
out
no,
yet.
sorry.
Yeah, can you put the main sheets on? Main halyard on, sorry. Just fasten it to the same.
Okay, that's all.
Okay, take the tension on the main halyard.
Yep.
What that's like, okay. Grind on the main halyard.
Glad this is not a real emergency. Guys.
You're dead.
Go in again.
Good going out.
A bit more.
Your biggest problem is going to find a food to be
See ya.
Shit, just seen a dog.
Yeah.
So, go to
Okay, right.
take one side. No.
I think the nearer, the more you move the boom towards the centre of the ship, will allow me to foot paddle the up the
Yeah.
pole.
Try that before, but you know.
Put the boom out.
What's the problem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we winch it then? We're in a bad angle there.
Well, my that's what. So, down the short road there,
Why don't we take the time?
Alright, that's it.
A bit more.
I'll wrap it round your arm.
Move the boom towards the centre of the ship.
Pull the boom out.
got the preventer.
Alright, sorry. Just going that way a bit.
Okay. So, for someone who's able to help themselves a bit,
Now imagine doing that in a seaway
I know.
where you've graded as well.
Yeah, it works. You've got to have your head on. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Good, good, good.
But it shows, doesn't it, you know, we're in a controlled situation here. You still have to do this and make alteration. You know, it was free. And of course that mechanical efficiency of that is just, then you're up. And once I got, you know, a hand on the rail and certainly my feet on the gunnel, not a problem. Yeah. But I've got a dry suit on, I'm relatively
Need
warm.
oiling. These,
And I'm okay, for 64 I'm reasonably fit.
the cleats.
If you've been in the water for a while, you're going to want every assistance.
So I don't mean the teeth.
You know, how are you going to get that on?
Finding that with
under
an
a bit more.
inflated life jacket.
Oh, down the hatch.
Can't see it, can you? It's all good stuff, isn't it?
Well, let me, yeah.
So you can buy a floating strop that goes onto the life jacket.
you can, yeah.
So when it inflates, it floats away from the life jacket. You hook the strop.
Oh,
That's a very good
I have
idea,
seen
that.
those.
Pardon?
At my sea survival course, someone had that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I tell you what, I would be interested to look at some point in the future through the winter.
Do you think that's hit the floor?
I mean, these are old
Yeah.
style,
Should we
as I
practice
call
away
them,
as
horseshoe
this?
jackets.
Yeah.
Now, my personal jacket's like yours, it's a waistcoat type.
Yeah.
And I was saying to Colin, as Colin knows, the stabilised jackets used for diving, more like a waistcoat. So you get all the buoyancy here and right down here at your chest.
Yeah.
So all here
It's free.
is completely free, and here, but obviously you've got to get access to all your doing this.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what the modern waistcoat type jackets are
Life
like.
jacket got.
These are not good as we're doing now.
We should be able
Okay.
to find some
Jam jam.
YouTube video of that.
Oh, it's here.
You cannot help us.
Can't help us.
I can't hear you.
You're not allowed to get in, we've got to put you in it.
Oh, sorry.
It's also we've got to
Apologetica, apologetica.
Right, so somehow we've got to create a loop in this that we can get it into. Right, now you get hold of him with the boat hook.
The other boat that we haven't got.
So am I unconscious?
Yeah.
You are unconscious. Just round the back of the...
Oh, there he goes.
Yeah, if you get that in there, you're not going to get it out again. You just
Put
got to
it
hook
round
over
the,
the
put
strop.
it round his
Over,
that's
yeah, that's it. I'm going to turn him round without getting his head banged.
You don't let your conscious.
Get you, Mission Master.
You've got supportive crew
Okay,
here.
so we use some. Hold it in. Hold in there.
Hang it in.
And back
Hold it
again.
in.
Hold it in.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Let's pull him back a bit.
Yeah, right out. Slow down, Alison.
Well, drop it a bit for us because it's too far forward.
I'm going to fall out like a log.
Need to pull this.
Pull up.
Let's get it.
Try that.
Yeah, do that, Paul.
No, he's not in.
No, it's not.
He's not
You're going to have to use the boat hook to push the sailcloth around
Yeah,
him.
let go.
So drop
It's the
the...
sailcloth down here that you want in.
Pull
Yeah, so pull it, halyard up now.
Put it up.
Yeah.
That's it.
Keep going.
Gonna have to winch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, sir.
Someone go and help, please. Okay, you take the. No, I wouldn't take the boat hook off because that's the only means you've got until he's out of the water of securing it.
You have to take it off in a bit. You've got to roll on it.
Yeah, you're going to have to take it off because he will roll.
Tell him to hold
You have
it.
to stop. Hold it. Take the boat hook out now.
Got it off there, okay.
Yeah.
Just ease it back a bit, Dave. Ease it back.
Oh, it's caught under your buckle, mate.
Just stay there.
It's actually caught in the buckle.
Yes, I know.
How do you do that?
This is what you learn. This is in a seaway, in an emergency. This is the kind of thing that will happen.
Don't you need to keep a hold of it?
Okay.
What if he rolls out?
I'm not going to go anywhere out there. That's good.
We'll roll into the side of the boat if anyway.
Someone tail it for him.
Sorry?
It's alright, asking someone to tail that for you. You can't do the two.
Can we do this quicker or is it slow?
I think at any speed you like at this stage, it's just a demonstration of the system. You're going to be protecting it. Okay, you need to stop at this point because if you bring him up any further, he will now fall through the foot of the sail. So your power buckle needs to be connected in 3 locations.
But Niels isn't.
No! You live and you learn, don't you?
Feedback.
Yeah, we've also got a problem with this in that we can't bring it through. Well, we could just bring it through the rail forwards there.
Especially with an inflated life jacket, but we've demonstrated the principle of a sail power buckle.
I was asking, you know, he was hooked on and you unhooked him because it was getting in the way, but he's still not attached to the boat, is he?
No.
So should you not put a safety line on him while you can?
How are you going to do that?
You're going to have to lean forward over the edge, risking yourself.
This is the issue, isn't it?
I'll hold you.
I'll hold your legs then. Always an option with a little person on board. Yes.
That's good.
Listen, I don't want any suggestions about small people on board the boat because I'm the first time
You're
in
the
ages
volunteer small person.
Sorry, Dave.
anybody that's smaller than me.
I don't know.
When you
So,
reach that sail,
if you were to continue to roll him forward, he would fall through between the side of the boat and the foot of the sail. So you've got to have this secured in more than one location.
Right.
As it is
So
now,
in
isn't it?
some ways,
Or more
actually
than
having
two.
the stanchion in the middle here is helpful.
I'm not with you.
Yeah, but getting him
Yeah.
in.
If we lift him up any more, he'll
gonna
fall
fall
down
through
this
the
hole. So he'll
Should we
fall
do
off
it?
the sail.
No, because he'll go head first, and then we will drown him. His feet will be stuck up here, and his face will be in the water.
I'm up for that full.
Yeah, I see, because we're unravelling the sail.
Yeah, so the sail is
Did he rotate round as you brought him up?
Yes, he rolls.
Like a special.
And the problem was the boat hook had caught inside the one of the stainless steel buckles.
Well, you'd have to take the boat hook off anyway, because you roll onto it and jam it.
Yeah.
So what we want is one of those buoy grabbers. But the best thing you can do with that is to hook it onto your D-ring.
Or a
But
cobra?
you'd still roll the
Oh, he's
the
got to
line
roll.
with
Yeah,
it.
he's got to roll.
Yeah, roll round it.
Yeah.
So when he gets up to here, maybe then you deploy
This is
your
where you
cobra.
can. Yeah. Oh, I don't know about that, but
No, I think you wouldn't use Cobra and this together. I think Cobra is a standalone, but you do need a boat hook to get a semi-conscious casualty into a power buckle. And you can see how difficult that is unless the power buckle is rigid and so, which is what you get with the Dacon and the Jacob's Ladder. They're rigid.
Surely
Kind
that,
of
that
Katina
edge
is-
secured higher up here, bringing the end of that sail up. It's solve the problem, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if you tied things on above the mid-rail.
Yeah, it might help.
Yes. And you've got enough length in the sail. Do you want to do that? See if that, but the problem is you're going to put a huge strain on these
On
stanchions.
Right, you've got the shroud on this bit.
Yeah, it's on the shroud on there.
When I just ease me down, it's a bit of pressure coming on
Yeah,
here now.
okay. Right, we'll drop you back in the water.
Just going to re-rig this end of this.
That's a bit of a wimp. I shouldn't say that.
No, Richie's got you on camera.
If you're really wise, you could, whilst you're in the sail, you could rig 2 ropes and get 2 mooring lines and a couple of crew standing on it and pull them, and you roll up through the middle.
I don't know whether, Colin, you found this bit. This is the one you were talking about.
No.
It's that room from...
Well, pretty good. It's a main sail,
But we can have something made up.
Yeah.
That should be alright.
Okay, you're going to lower it a bit?
So I'm going to say.
Shouldn't roll off. What's in it? As easy.
How you doing, matey?
All right.
You okay, yeah?
What's the plumb?
Say again.
Back again.
We're going to do it. You're semi-conscious. We're going to pull you back in.
Mind your glasses, Dave.
Push them away. Mind your head. Supposed to be pulling it in.
I think their stuff just with the strap. With the strap.
Yeah, just use one of these crotch straps.
Oh.
Yeah, the strap would be a better one.
I think your missus ought to put you on a diet, kid. You know that? I mean, I'm not saying it, but there are lighter people on the boat. In fact, I think the boat's lighter.
Oh, there you go, Tim. Are you going to do head first into the sail? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Steal it down.
Pulling back a bit towards me. Still too far towards me. Pull them down.
You want to take the weight?
Yes, are you falling out the... Marcel, please go back. Lower it down a bit, pull it further towards me.
You're going to need more turns on that to stop it slipping once it blows up.
Come out of this experience.
Go on, here we go.
This is where you'd cut your lower guardrail string and you'd roll you in onto the deck.
Yeah, let's do that.
Got the guardrail then.
Yeah. also put the shackle on the end of the guardrail.
Yeah, all the slats and that's it's going to be giving off to drop that wire to the down.
You okay there, Martin?
Yeah, I've just got a bit of pressure on the left arm.
Do you want to go back down then?
When you touch, just set me off on my arms on the end of the gun.
Please.
Alright, perfect.
Okay.
Do you want the Sunday papers?
It's just the arm goes on the...
You'll have to fit that yourself, Mark. Put a turn round and fasten it on itself.
Cold hands?
Well, a lot of these things don't work if you catch the person straight away.
So the suggestion, thread it under your buckle and pull it left and just fasten it on the rope.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, see what you do on that. You know what I mean? Let's have a look. You thread it under your belt.
I'm not got my glasses on, you say?
No, just won't touch. Leave the shackle alone at the moment.
Put it on through the harness underneath. Don't try any of the shackles, just through the.
Underneath your belt. Pull it right through and then just fasten it on the rope.
You can't do it.
Oh, we're doing a moment.
Yeah, well,
It's been down.
yeah. You know which one?
There you go. Problem with these spills, it floats.
Yeah.
It's going up. It's going up.
You need that brick on the end of it, don't you? You need a brick on the bottom.
Yeah, it's just as quick to heat it up. It is that you
Are we giving up on the ladder?
It's pointless, isn't it? Like we demonstrate.
Yeah.
It's pointless.
Well, that's good.
Don't worry.
But it's really important because if you know that, you don't waste time with it. You've got it.
Well, it wasn't on the boat, well, especially.
You might use it as a swimming ladder in really good conditions, but I would use it to rescue someone.
Tell you what.
Anyway.
In a real emergency, there doesn't be about as much use as a chocolate find out.
Yes.
I'm going to drop you.
How are you feeling? Are you
I'm
cold?
absolutely fine,
Done
but
40 minutes.
that is really difficult.
Yeah.
The floating, they're moving around all over the place.
Okay.
Don't undo your knots.
But it's already very low down, so it's obvious it's got to be up here. Before we can get anywhere with it.
It will just show you that you can use it as the farmer tools. The problem with pulling it up is you're going to lose your stanchions.
So
But maybe those
this is this midpoint clip.
where it goes round the...
Possibly. Right, this time you're a conscious casualty.
What we're doing now?
Without you start low enough in the water for it to get into.
Well, it's got no stop on it.
I think this won't work.
It won't work.
I don't think. We'll try it.
I don't think it will, no.
I think it's too narrow. Can't actually midge it.
Jib Halley are just about right then. Because there's a lot of sail at the top, isn't there, that you're not going to use.
It's just too short to use. We can't even get them in the harbour. There's just no way we're going to get you in that. So are you okay to have another go with the Cobra?
With the what, sorry?
With the Cobra?
Yeah, we'll give it a go with that over the stern and then. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay.
Yep. I think this is great.
Good.
Really good. Oh, messy.
I'm driving you back there. Just take you straight back on the ground.
Mind your helmet, mate.
Yeah.
Sorry, the crowd.
Yeah, keep on.
This is where the hard work starts. Is that a 2-speed winch?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the easy
Oh, that is the easy one.
Yeah.
Do you want me
It's
to
the
do it?
chain ring.
Come on, skipper. Getting cold here. I'm all right.
We wanted to go to the theatre
Need
there.
to win a bit.
Can you double hand that winch with Alison? Yeah. 2 people on the one handle. That's alright, you double handle it. Right, I'll come and show you. Be able to lift him up with his feet.
From his feet, I was going to bring him overboard first.
Oh, he got his legs in.
I really won't.
Keep going up.
Oh, go on. Dave.
Stays in and these down.
Sure the pocket will single like on the rail.
Okay, you're all clear.
Come with these spills, he floats.
Yeah.
It's just as quick to heave him up.
Can we give it up on the ladder?
It's quite difficult. I think we demonstrated
Yeah.
it's pointless.
Well, it's really important because you know that. Don't waste time with it. You've got it.
Well, it wasn't on the boat. Well,
Horses, especially. You might use it as a swimming ladder in really good conditions. But I would use it to rescue someone.
Tell you what.
down. How are you feeling? How are you cold?
Absolutely fine,
Done
but
40 minutes.
that is really
Yeah.
floating and moving around all over the place.
Okay.
What do you not?
But it's already very low down, isn't it? It is. It's obvious that it's going to be up here. Before we can get anywhere with it.
I'll just show you, then you can use it as a farming class. The problem with pulling it up is you're going to load your sand.
So maybe those.
This is his midpoint clip.
Oh, he goes round.
Possibly. Right, this time you're a conscious casualty.
What we're doing now?
That is that low enough in the water for him to get into?
Well, it's got no stop on it, anyway.
I think this won't work.
It won't work.
I don't think. We'll try it.
I don't think it will, no.
I think it's too narrow.